Hi everyone, I just want to quickly introduce myself. My name is Emma and my YouTube channel name is MsBMommy. You can also find me on Twitter at Mrs. Emma JB. I'd really like to just start by first thanking Shaylee for putting together this body image after baby series. I have loved it and I'm super excited to be a part of it. That being said, this is going to be a super emotional topic for me, and I knew that the only way I could get through this video is by trying to be as organized as possible. So I made some notes on my phone, so if you see me looking down at all during the video, it's because I'm trying to keep myself on track by looking at the notes that I made for myself. I am 27 years old. I am the mother of a 2-year-old little girl. Her name is Isabel, and she just turned 2 on December 6th. I am also pregnant with what will be our second daughter, and she is due on April 5. So just to start out with some backstory, body image has always been something that I've struggled with. I can pretty honestly say that I don't really feel like there's ever been a time in my life when I have looked in the mirror and been completely happy with the way that I looked. There have always been more things about myself that I don't like than that I do like about my physical body. That's really sad and that's really hard for me to actually admit, and it's something that within the last 2 years since having Isabel that I'm really working to correct. Growing up, my mom always told me that I was beautiful. She always made a point to tell me, don't you know how pretty you are? Especially in high school, I remember her saying when we would go places, don't you notice how men always look at you and they never look at me? You're so beautiful. So from her, I always had a lot of positive affirmation in regards to the way that I looked. My dad, he also tends to, I think, struggle with his body image as well. When I was in middle school, he went to the doctor and the doctor told him that he was borderline overweight, and he took that comment to the extreme and took it really seriously and kind of started making a lot of drastic lifestyle changes in terms of diet and exercise, which is not necessarily bad in and of itself, but I feel like he almost became a little bit obsessive about it. The way that you look physically was something that was talked about a lot in my house through middle school and high school, and I feel like that that impacted me a lot. And I'm not trying to say like I have daddy issues or that that the way I feel about myself had really anything to do with my dad. I just think that it's something that I heard him giving himself negative critique a lot, and so growing up hearing that, I think that's just something that I got in a pattern of as well, is just giving myself a lot of negative critique when it came to the way that I look. Just to give you a better idea of the size person that I am 5 feet tall, 8.5 inches, so I'm fairly tall for a woman. I weighed 135 pounds the summer between high school and college, and that's the thinnest that I've ever been. But even at that time, I didn't look in the mirror and think, wow, I look amazing. Like, I still would look in the mirror and feel like there were things that I wanted to critique and change about my body, even though I was super skinny. Looking back, I realized that I was super skinny. In college, my weight fluctuated up and down a lot. I would eat too much, and then I would try to like go on a workout spree to correct it, and so it kind of was up and down. I've been married for almost 5 years, and so early marriage and kind of pre-baby, so pre-Isabel, I was still the same height, 5'8.5", but I weighed about 165 pounds. That's in the healthy range for my height, so I wasn't like really overweight or anything. Looking back, I feel like I looked really good, but again, at that time, I wasn't super happy with my body. Okay, so all that brings us to like the main part of the story. When I was pregnant with my daughter Isabel, I gained 50 pounds. I was really sick during my pregnancy with her, and I basically coped with it by just eating through it, eating through the nausea. I ate a ton of fast food, a lot of high-calorie junk, and I gained 50 pounds. At the time, I was not that concerned about it because I just really was more focused on, one, being able to get myself through each day, and two, I really just wanted to have a healthy baby. I knew that the way my body is made, that I wouldn't be able to just like drop it overnight, but I told my husband I thought that realistically within a year I could lose the baby weight and everything would be fine. After Isabel was born, I felt the most strong and confident and beautiful that I think I've ever felt in my whole life. I was curvy, and the day I think it was like either the day she was born or the day after she was born, I dropped 14 of the 50 pounds that I had gained. My breasts were huge. Like, I felt so curvy and beautiful. And I think the endorphins and the adrenaline of actually giving birth to a beautiful, perfect little sweet angel baby just made me feel so good about myself, and I just didn't really care what I looked like. Even though I had stretch marks all over my belly and so much about my body had changed, I still just felt so beautiful and confident after giving birth to her. I was on top of the world. I thought, I'm a mother and I can do anything, and I just felt really, really good. I nursed her for 6 months, and because I was nursing and I was eating really pretty well, I lost 25 of the 50 pounds that I had gained with her in the first 6 months. When she was about 6 months old, I got a really, really nasty cold and I had to be put on antibiotics, and the antibiotics completely dried up my milk supply and I had to stop nursing her. And that's where things kind of went downhill in terms of weight loss, and my goal to lose all of my baby weight with her within the first year. Through that next, her 6-month mark to her 1-year mark, I ended up gaining back 14 of the 25 pounds that I had lost. And so around her 1-year birthday, I started really thinking more about my weight and realizing, hey, if I want to have another baby sometime in the near future, I probably should think about really, really trying really hard to get back to my pre-pregnancy weight so that I'm not adding weight on top of weight when we get pregnant with baby number 2. I started exercising and I started eating really consciously. I was counting calories, trying to eat within a certain goal every day. I was using an app on my phone to track, and I was doing really well. I ended up losing about 10 pounds, and then we got pregnant with baby number 2. I was, of course, thrilled to be pregnant with baby number 2, but I was also a little bit sad and a little bit worried because I knew that I hadn't gotten myself back to my weight goal, and I wasn't sure how that was gonna go. I'm just starting week 27 of my pregnancy, and I think so far to date I've gained about 13 pounds. So I'm doing a much better job of keeping track of weight gain this pregnancy. So up until this point in the video, I feel like I've just been spewing a lot of facts at you guys and not actually telling you like the emotional part of my story. So here it goes. Right after I got pregnant with baby number 2, around the 12-week mark, I was feeling really depressed and really sad about my body and the way that I looked. I went shopping with my mom, and we went to try to get some maternity clothes, and I remember just being so depressed that I had to get in maternity clothes already, because I didn't get in maternity clothes that early with Isabel. And we were driving home and I was crying and I was super sad in the car, and I remember her just looking at me and saying, Emma, you are beautiful at your lowest weight and you are beautiful at your highest weight, and your husband thinks you're beautiful and your daughter thinks you're beautiful, and what really matters is that you just feel comfortable in your skin. And if you don't feel comfortable in your skin, then you're just gonna have to work really hard after you give birth to baby number 2 to just get yourself back to where you feel good in your skin. I can't believe I'm saying all this with a straight face right now. I just, in my heart, when I think about that conversation, it was so emotional and it was so enriching for me to hear those words from her. But it was also really hard because she was right. She hit the nail on the head that I don't feel good in my skin, and I want to. I want to believe my husband when he looks at me and says that he thinks I'm beautiful. I think it was a few weeks or a few months after my mom made that comment in the car to me, I stumbled across an article that's entitled, When Your Mother Says She's Fat. I'm calling it an article, but really it was a blog post. But I feel like this blog post was like super life-changing for me and really helped me put a lot of things in perspective, and I hope that this is the part of my story that will stick with you the most, especially if you are the mother of a daughter, or even if you're the mother of a son. Like, I feel like this applies to you as well, because we really need to train our children to appreciate beauty for what's on the inside and not necessarily what's on the outside. So the blog post is called When Your Mother Says She's Fat, and I'm going to ask Shaylee if she can link it in the description box below so that you guys can all read this article, because I think it's just so good. But I want to read just like a little excerpt of it for you, and hopefully I can get through it without breaking down into tears. So it starts out by saying, Dear Mom, I was 7 when I discovered that you were fat, ugly, and horrible. Up until that point, I had believed that you were beautiful in every sense of the word. And then the writer goes on to describe some memories she has of her mother and ways that she thought her mom was beautiful. Then it says, "But all of that changed when one night we were dressed up for a party and you said to me, 'Look at you, so thin, beautiful, and lovely, and look at me, fat, ugly, and horrible.' At first I didn't understand what you meant. 'You're not fat,' I said earnestly and innocently, and you replied, 'Yes, I am, darling. I've always been fat, even as a child.' In the days that followed, I had some painful revelations that shaped my whole life. I learned that 1. You must be fat because mothers don't lie. 2. Fat is ugly and horrible. And 3. When I grow up, I'll look like you, and therefore, I will be fat, ugly, and horrible too." I do not want that from my daughter. I don't want her to ever hear the words come out of my mouth that I think I'm fat, because I don't want her to think that. I just don't want that. I don't want anything about that story to be my story, and I don't want anything about that story to be Isabel's story or my other daughter's story. I want them to know that they're beautiful for who they are inside and for who they are outside. And so ever since I read that article, I've been trying to be so cautious and so careful not to say anything negative about myself or about the way that my body looks. And I know that when I look in Isabel's eyes, I know that she thinks I'm beautiful. She looks at me so adoringly, and she watches me get dressed, and I know that I'm a role model for her, and I don't want the role that I play in her life to be a person who teaches her that what we look like on the outside defines us, or that if we have a little bit of blubber around our belly that we're not beautiful anymore. I want her to see me as a confident, strong woman, a woman who loves her and loves her dad. So I've been trying so hard to let all of that sink in and soak in and change my life, so that I don't have to move forward no matter how I look after baby number 2 is born, whether or not I lose the weight, whether or not I meet my goals. I just want to feel good about who I am so that I can pass that on to my daughter, and she can look in the mirror and feel good about who she is. I hope that hearing something about my story impacts you, and I hope that you can learn from my story and feel that you are beautiful too. So that's the end of my story, and I just want to say thank you again to Shaylee for initiating this whole series. I have loved it. I've loved watching everyone's stories, and I feel like I'm learning so much from it. And so if you guys haven't already, make sure you subscribe to Shaylee's channel, and if you want to come over to my channel and check me out too, I would be honored, but don't feel like you have to. So thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.